Hey guys, it's Madeline Reinhardt, and I'm going to be reading Old Possum's book of Practical Cats by T.S. Eliot, and this is a whisper meditation that's also a bedtime story. Just a really quick read, it's some poems, and so I hope you guys enjoy it, and we're going to get started. I'm going to pull out the book. And the first page of this book is going to be, the first story is going to be the naming of cats. So, there we go, the naming of cats. The naming of cats is a difficult matter. Isn't just one of your holiday games. You may think at first I'm as mad as a hatter when I tell you a cat must have 3 different names. First of all, there's the name that the family use daily, such as Peter, Augustus, Alonzo, or James, such as Victor or Jonathan, George, or Bill Bailey. All of them sensible, everyday names. There are fancier names if you think they sound sweeter. Some for the gentlemen, some for the dames, such as Plato, Admetus, Electra, Demeter. But all of them sensible, everyday names. But I tell you, a cat needs a name that's particular, a name that's peculiar and more dignified. Else how can he keep up his tail perpendicular, or spread out his whiskers, or cherish his pride? Of the names of this kind, I can give you a quorum, such as Monkeystrap, Quaxo, or Coracopat, such as Bombalurina, or else Jelly Lorum, names that never belong to more than one cat. But above and beyond, there's still one name left over, and that is the name that you never will guess. The name that no human research can discover, but the cat himself knows and will never confess. When you notice a cat in profound meditation, the reason I tell you is always the same. His mind is engaged in a rapt contemplation of the thought of the thought of the thought of his name. His ineffable, effable, and ineffable, deep and inscrutable singular name. So that was The Naming of Cats by T.S. Eliot. That was one of the poems. We'll do another one. I like that one because it talks about meditation. Even cats meditate. They can meditate on their name. And what's interesting, you can't tell because you're not looking at the story, but the name in the last sentence is capitalized. The name, it's a capital N. So just think about that. It's interesting when they say what a cat's name is. Okay, so the next poem is The Old Gumby Cat. I have a Gumby cat in mind. Her name is Jenny Anydots. Her coat is of the tabby kind, with tiger stripes and leopard spots. All day she sits upon the stair, or on the steps, or on the mat. She sits and sits and sits and sits, and that's what makes a gumby cat. But when the day's hustle and bustle is done, then the gumby cat's work is but hardly begun. And when all the family's in bed and asleep, she slips down the stairs to the basement to creep. She's deeply concerned with the ways of the mice. Their behavior's not good, and their manners not nice. So when she has got them lined up on the matting, she teaches them music, crocheting, and tatting. I have a gumby cat in mind. Her name is Jenny Any Dots. Her equal would be hard to find. She likes the warm and sunny spots. All day she sits beside the hearth, or in the sun, or on my hat. She sits and sits and sits and sits, and that's what makes a gumby cat. But when the day's hustle and bustle is done, then the gumby cat's work is but hardly begun. And she finds that the mice will not ever keep quiet. She is sure it is due to irregular diet. And believing that nothing is done without trying, she sets straight to work with her baking and frying. She makes them a mouse cake of bread and dried peas, and a beautiful fry of lean bacon and cheese. I have a gumby cat in mind. Her name is Jenny Any Dots. The curtain cord she likes to wind and tie it into sailor knots. She sits upon the windowsill, or anything that's smooth and flat. She sits and sits and sits and sits, and that's what makes a gumby cat. But when the day's hustle and bustle is done, then the gumby cat's work is but hardly begun. She thinks that the cockroaches just need employment to prevent them from idle and wanton destroyment. So she's formed from that lot of disorderly louts a troop of well-disciplined, helpful Boy Scouts with a purpose in life and a good deed to do. She's even created a beetle's tattoo. So for old gumby cats, let us now give 3 cheers, on whom well-ordered households depend, it appears. So that was called The Old Gumby Cat by T.S. Eliot. And that'll be story time for tonight. So tuck yourself in and tuck yourself right.